Your favorite film is awful.
Hello, and welcome to Your Favourite Film is Awful, the show where we take your favourite films and defend them against negative reviews. As always, I am Luke MJ Powell, and with me, the one and only, it's Charlie Lilly. How you doing, Charlie?
I'm good, thanks, my man. How about yourself? You alright?
Excellent
How's things been?
to hear. Great, my end. What about yourself? What have you been up to? Have you done anything interesting or watched any noteworthy films?
I have watched some noteworthy movies. However, my brain has fried. So if you could do yours first, and then we'll do mine after. How about that? Whilst I remember.
Okay. What did I watch? I watched Space Sweepers, which is a Netflix film, which was a lot of fun. It was a fun little space romp about a ragtag group of space, like street cleaners, but for space. And they find a little lost girl, and it turns out that this little lost girl is a robot with a explosive inside her that is meant to trigger like a planet-destroying event. And so they have to figure out all this mystery and find out what's going on. It's all this intrigue, and it's just very well done. It's not like super serious, but it was enough of a good time to suck me in and get me to enjoy the movie. So that was the first one that I watched.
Okay.
How do you rate that review? Did that intrigue you at all, or you were just like,
Sounds interesting.
Interesting. Okay. And the other film that I watched is a very old film. By the name of Citizen Kane. This is the first time I watched it.
Luke.
And I've got to be honest, right? I can understand the historical importance. I can understand what it's done for the genre of filmmaking. But it's all right. It's what I think if they were to release Citizen Kane today, we'd just be like, what the fuck was that film? Why bother? But because it was the film of the time, like, its history elevates the medium? The film. Does that make sense? Those are my thinkings.
Yeah. It was obviously it's a very important movie. I'm pretty sure it's one of the first movies to show, to sort of put a camera sort of under the floorboards so you could see everyone, including the ceiling. I think in like older movies you never really see the ceiling much, but I might be wrong in that, but I'm pretty sure there was something he did revolutionary in terms of putting it in there. I mean, it's a classic for many reasons. I mean, I enjoy it. I think it's a good movie. I understand that people can be like, it's not, doesn't hold up or whatever, but it's a very important movie for the time. It uses a lot of, if not every, camera technique and film editing technique possible. And I mean, Orson Welles was like 24 when he made it, which is insane. His biggest movie, but the interesting part about it was that he never could he struggled to like finish movies like later on, because he was always constantly comparing them to Citizen Kane, and he kind of peaked too soon almost in a weird way, and he kind of struggled to finish the rest of his films. I think there's quite a few that never got finished. There's a documentary about that on the other side on Netflix that come out alongside The Other Side of the Wind, all that stuff about the making of that. So I think that's if you're interested if you was interested in how it's made, I'd definitely check that one out. But yeah, interesting. I've heard people say that before.
It's one of those. Don't get it twisted. It's good film, and I can see like the techniques, and I can understand its importance and what it does. It does good. But like you can tell it's a film that was made in that time because of like the pacing, some of the story beats and the way of the storytelling. You can tell it's things that have gone out of fashion, like that whole bit at the beginning where they're explaining, because the film is like, because Citizen Kane is already dead before the film starts and it's all flashback stuff. But that whole like first 5, 7, 10 minutes where it's like a news broadcast, I can like you can tell that was more like of the time, and it was trying to like catch everybody up to this where if a film was to tackle it today, they might allow the audience to kind of fill in the gaps more, and they wouldn't have had this full-on newsreel of this was this guy's life. Now watch as we flash back to certain elements of his life.
I see what you mean.
Yeah, but otherwise, I thought it was good. It's a good watch. If you're a film fan, it's one that you should eventually watch. And because it was on BBC Two, I got to watch it.
Oh yeah, it's on there, isn't it? It's on the BBC iPlayer as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, is that everything you've watched this week recently?
I also watched Sully for the first time. The Tom Hanks.
Oh, the Tom Hanks one.
Playing on the Hudson, which was great. It was very well done. My only comparison, the only film I could compare it to was Flight with Denzel Washington.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, there's something great about watching people do extraordinary things with planes and survive against the odds. It's always good to watch. And then
if you do like that very small subgenre you got going on there, I would go for. Have you seen American Made with Tom Cruise?
No, I saw it advertised and it just looks like a generic gangster.
Yeah, see, that's the thing.
It's
It's one of the most underrated movies, I think, of the 2010s. It came out in 2017, and it's based on a true story about a guy who essentially shifted like drugs over the country for Pablo Escobar.
Yeah.
But it's incredible. If you like people landing planes and their life, it's Tom Cruise is fantastic in it. It's really, really, really underrated movie. I really like it a lot. I always forget. It's Doug Lerman. I've always pronounced his last name. Doug Lehman.
That's fine.
Who directed Edge of Tomorrow and The Bourne Identity. He also directed that. Which I think is really good. Yeah. So yeah, check that one out, Luke. If you'd like.
What about yourself? Have you had a time to think of one or two films that you want to talk about today?
Yeah, I've watched quite a lot. I think that's why it took me a while to think about it.
Well, pick one or two. Don't talk a lot.
Okay. I watched a film called Society that came out in 1989, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Which is about a young boy who's from like quite a wealthy family. Mm-hmm. And he starts to realise that his parents and stepsister might be part of like a weird sort of sex cult thing.
Oh.
But it gets way stranger than that. It goes full David Cronenberg in places. I don't want to say anymore just in case I spoil it. Because I think everyone should just experience it knowing nothing. Just watch it. Because I watched it with someone who knew nothing about what the film's about, and he was disturbed. He was truly disturbed.
Fair enough.
So if you wanted to be disturbed, watch that one. I also watched. I watched My Octopus Teacher, the Netflix.
Oh yes.
The Oscar-nominated documentary, or Oscar winner. And if you know anything about me, you'll know that I'm a big fan of the octopus. And I mean, I even have one tattooed on my arm. So I'm a big fan of octopuses. I just love them. I think they're fascinating. So I was already kind of biased to watching this anyway. But however, I thought it was a fantastic documentary. I thought it was amazing. The fact that a human being can become friends with an octopus that recognises him every day and hugs him is insane to me. The fact that there's some shots in it with of tension with like sharks that like always constantly trying to kill these octopuses and eat, and how the octopus deals with that scenario, how they survive. Just incredible. A lot of people online complain. They're like, I've seen reviews, people being like, "Oh, it's so weird. It just seems like this dude wants to fuck this octopus the whole time." And it's like, it's like, yeah, it's. I think it's because he has he loves his octopus quite a bit in terms of like, he's spending a lot of his time down there, but it's because he's learning so much about this octopus. I think it's amazing. I would highly recommend it to anyone who's into like documentaries or just octopuses, I guess.
Octopuses.
So that was good. Yeah, and also I watched Boss Level.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard of this. Have you heard of this?
Sounds familiar, but it might just be that I saw it on Letterboxd.
Well, it's kind of got, it's kind of what's the word? Similar to the movie that we might be talking about today, and in terms of it is a sort of Groundhog Day-esque sort of movie where this guy sort of wakes up and he's like being assassinated, essentially being killed, and he has no idea why, but every time he dies he wakes back up again in bed on this certain day, and he has to keep reliving the day until he sort of figures out why. It has Mel Gibson in it. It has
Happy Death Day.
Yeah. Pretty much like that. But this is like played like a video game kind of thing. So it has things like game over and stuff like that, and like you've reached the checkpoint. And
all right. Well, that makes sense with the title.
Yes, it's directed by Joe Carnahan, who did The Grey and stuff as well. He did the A.T. movie. I like The Grey a lot, so this wasn't nowhere near as good as that. This was, I'm sure I was just double checking to see if I've got it right. Yeah, this it was alright. It just the pacing was weird. There was loads of good ideas in it. There was loads of good ideas, but the pacing was just too weird. And like, you've already got a looping structure anyway, and I feel like it could have got moving a bit quicker, and it could have got to the points, the beats a bit quicker. Also, like, you literally just have Frank Grillo just telling you the whole movie. Like, he just narrates the entirety of it. I mean, there's some cool action stuff in it. Naomi Watts is also in it. I mean, check it out. You might enjoy it. It's a cool concept. It's just, it just was a bit off for me.
Okay.
But yeah, they're the 3 movies I watched recently.
Fair enough. A good selection.
Yeah.
And so today, what are we doing? You just hinted at what we're doing, but refused to say the title. So, what film have you brought to the table?
It's a 2020 movie, I believe. Or is it 2021? 2020?
2020.
2020, yeah, 2020. 2020 movie starring Andy Samberg, and that is Palm Springs.
Palm Springs.
Palm Springs.
And you kind of already hinted at what it's about, because you mentioned it in the context of your Groundhog Day-esque boss levels. But for those at home that haven't seen it and aren't going to watch it, but insist on continuing to watch us on youtube.com/yourfavouriteFilmIsAwful. What is that film about?
So the film is about a boy and a it's about 2 people, a boy and a girl.
2 people, a boy and
One
a
played
girl.
by a boy and a girl, you know, the classic rom-com. And they both don't believe in love. They don't believe in love forever, essentially. However, they are stuck in a infinite time loop of the same day, where they are the only 2 people who are in this time loop.
Well, that's
together.
a lie, Charlie. Charlie, you're
lying.
lying.
Well, you know, I don't want to spoil stuff. But
Well,
there might be a
this is for the
Mr.
people that aren't
J.K.
gonna watch
Simmons. Well, to be fair, if they're going to watch it, if they're going to listen to this, they surely...
Yeah, surely they should have already watched.
Surely.
In fairness, with our view counts, I'm pretty sure people only watch if they've seen the film.
No, yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah, so the 2 characters are Sarah and Niles. Niles plays Andy Samberg, and Sarah is played by Christy Miller. I forgot her last name, but she's in
Milioti.
It's Milioti. She's in that great Black Mirror episode, isn't she? The Star Trek one. Pretty sure that's her. Yeah, she's fantastic.
I think that's
yeah, and J.K. Simmons as well. Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much it, really. 2 lovers are trapped into this infinite time loop. J.K. Simmons, by the way, is also trying to essentially murder Andy Samberg because he got him trapped in this time loop as well. So there's also that. So, but yeah, it's a really fun movie. So we'll see what the reviews say.
We shall indeed. Shall I give you a first review then? From the great pirate ship, Pirate Rachel, with a 0.5-star review. Why the hell has this got such good reviews? One of the most cringeable, dull, and unfunny films I've seen since Cats. And a horrific outing for Andy Samberg. Watched half, then threw my TV out of the top floor window.
Wow. Really? Do you reckon that she did do that? I don't know if this movie could make you that
hyperbole.
mad.
Yeah, maybe a bit of exaggeration, hyperbole.
Surely.
I very much doubt in a world where you can pause a film and just turn it off. Did somebody pick up their TV?
I would love to see it though. I would love to see someone. I would love to see someone like throw it off and then like take a picture of it and then put it in the review. Like a smashed TV on the ground, and then just be like, "Yeah, I threw it 'cause it was this bad."
No. I want the next
all this
step.
money.
I want a video of the film playing. Pirate Rachel, dressed in full pirate garb, to stand up, be like, "This film is cringeworthy, dull, and unfunny." Pick up the TV, rip the cables out of the wall. Then go up 3 flights of stairs. All of this is recording. No, not sped up, not time-lapsed or anything. Whilst continuing to shout her hyperbole about Andy Samberg being not great in the film. And then throw it out of the window. And then flip the bird to the camera. That's what I want. I think that would be perfect.
If someone actually legit like did that as a video, I would love to just stick that on. Do you know what I mean? Like, we just stick it on and we review, we try and defend against that. I mean, that would be so funny. Like, just to see someone just properly lose it.
Yeah, I think you can't defend against that much unbridled rage. Like, the fact of anybody actually doing that, you just be like, sure, okay, don't hurt me. If you're willing to throw your own TV out of the top floor window, I don't know what you're going to do to me, a complete stranger.
Literally. That is so true. Yeah, I mean, that's a weird one because for me, it's hard to say about when it defend comedies because they're so, it depends on the viewer, doesn't it? If they find it funny or not. It's like, it's very difficult when it comes to comedies. Exactly. I personally was pissing myself laughing. I could not stop laughing the whole way through, pretty much. I was laughing quite a lot. I thought it was hilarious. I just thought it was so funny. The possibility of, you've been in this same day for so many times. You just do whatever. You just try whatever you can. Like, you would just set up, like, you crash the wedding and pretend like you're a pirate and there's a bomb. You're a bomb expert. And you just fire the bomb away with it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I thought it was hilarious because I just think that's what everyone would do, sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? They would do. You just do that if you were stuck in this loop. You just do everything
for shits and gigs.
Yeah, I thought Andy Samberg was hilarious, and I actually think it's one of the best things he's done in a while. I really, really liked it. I mean, I had quite a nice little Samberg session lately, I guess, if you will, because I saw Popstar Never Stop Stopping recently, which I also loved, and then now this with Palm Springs, I thought it was brilliant. I believe this is a directorial debut for a feature film, anyway, by the director. We directed short films before this.
Okay.
Max Barbakow. Barbakow. We're gonna go with that, I'm afraid. Sorry, I can't pronounce it. Max Barbakow. He directed this movie. Apparently, the script was so funny that Andy Samberg was actually like laughing out loud reading it, which I think is really weird because people say, "Oh yeah, I laughed at something," but like you don't really laugh out loud, do you? You usually you laugh internally, don't you? But I could imagine reading this script and legit pissing myself. Like, I think I would actually like laugh out loud. Like, some of it was really funny. So I'm surprised by that. Yeah, it's weird. So they said Andy Samberg was crap, and they said that it wasn't funny. Didn't they say something else as well?
Let me find it. One of the most cringeable, dull, and unfunny films I've seen since Cats, and a horrific outing for Andy Samberg.
That's harsh. I don't think it's cringeworthy. Do you say it's cringeworthy? I don't think there's anything maybe with the cliche of like, oh, I don't believe in love, and then they kind of get, but it's not really about that. It's kind of more about like them. It's kind of more about the possibilities of what would you do if you were stuck in this infinite time loop of the same day, let alone the worst day, one of the worst days of your life, where you've just basically cheated on your sister. You basically cheated your sister's husband, she's about to get married to.
Yeah.
You cheat on her with. Do you know what I mean? It's like, that is a horrific thing to wake up to every morning. And realize that. I think it's cringe. I think it feels like a fresh take on the Groundhog Day stuff. Usually, like in Groundhog Day, it takes a while until the loop happens. What I liked about this one was that it just got stuck into it, and it was more about what would you do. What would you do if you're stuck in this time loop and you've been in there for like how many? You don't even know how many years you've been stuck in this loop. I liked the idea of that. I thought that was really fun. I thought that was really fresh. Yeah, I'm just surprised by that. What do you think, Luke?
I can understand both. It's one of those I don't. So when did I watch? I watched this the day before we did Mean Girls, and I haven't come back to it since. So my memory is a little bit foggy. I'm just going to put that out there now. But I can. There are bits that are quite cringe and not great. I know in some of the negative reviews, I don't know if we'll get to some of the harsher ones, but like Niles when what's Milioti's characters? Sarah. Sarah asks Niles if they'd slept together in his infinite time loop before she's involved. He flat out says no, but then later on he reveals himself to they have, and then because he's done that, it brings into question consent and adds like this layer of dirt and griminess that I don't think it's ever been addressed in. Well, it's not really addressed in this film, and it's not been addressed in other Groundhog Day films, to my knowledge, of the fact that, like, if somebody has, like, because it removes consent, doesn't it? It's like you say yes in the moment, but then you don't remember it happening because it didn't happen, and then it just flips, and that in itself, and that paradoxical controversy that it brings up, which is very interesting, and I feel should be like a mainstay focus for a much cringier film. But because it's like slipped into this comedy, that is quite a cringy moment.
That's interesting, because I wouldn't have said necessarily cringy, because I think that's really interesting. I think that's a really interesting concept, like you just said, to have that and what it says about consent and that. I think it's I thought that was really. I think that was a really great idea to have in the.
Which I agree with, like, which is why I said it should like that idea should be developed and made into like a whole thing. But the issue with this is that they bring it up. Sarah is like, well, fuck you, fuck this. Gets hit by a car, and then they don't address that again until Sarah's figured out how to get out of the loop, in where she doesn't bring it up again. Like, that conundrum is never brought up again. It's just like, oh no, we fell in love. It's fine. It's all fine. That was in the past. Your past, not my past, because it didn't happen to me. It happened to the me that gave you consent in the moment, but then couldn't remember giving you consent. Which is a whole fucking ordeal. See, even as I say it, it's just like a paradox that destroys my brain.
Well, it's interesting because obviously, like, she agreed to do it on the day, but I think what you're trying to say is that he's done it so many times that he's understood the right combination of words to put together that will allow her to. Well, will trigger her to want to have sex with him, essentially.
Exactly. I mean, he even says it. When they sat down and he admits that he has slept with her, he says, oh yeah, I just save you from having to do the wedding speech, and we just have sex after that. Like, it's an easy play. So, like, it loses any sort of romance and passion for her pre-loop, which is established during the loop. Which is another interesting thing that they don't really address, is that, do you think that they fell in love because it's a love of convenience? They're both stuck in this loop, so they fall in love.
Well, that's what's interesting about it, I think. I think this is... Well, basically, I read this thing about, the dinosaurs that keep popping up?
Mm.
Yeah, yes. And I read that the director said that the dinosaurs are actually there, and that the reason for that is that because if two people who do not believe in love can fall in love, then dinosaurs must still exist. And that was why he put them in there to like throw the audience off or something,
right.
Which I thought was really interesting. And I think that's kind of the point of the movie is like they're put in this like insane situation, which made me laugh because it reminded me of a line that I think is quite funny when he's like, oh, one of those classic time loop scenarios. Like I thought that was quite a funny way to deal with it. I also like that they didn't constantly refer to like other time loop movies and stuff. It set itself in its own thing, which I think like can be a bit of a problem nowadays with things. Like for example, if you think of something like Avengers Endgame, used a lot of like references to other movies. I mean, it was funny at the time, but like it's kind of to other movies to explain or to ridicule the science in other movies, if that makes sense.
I can understand what you're on about. Yeah, it's one of those, but I quite enjoy those because it's like I feel it quickens the explanation because we as the audience have experienced those films already. So it's not a new concept.
Yeah, no, yeah, I'm not necessarily complaining. I'm just saying it's like it's the typical route to go down now, isn't it?
Yeah.
In this sort of post-modernism stuff. But yeah, no, I really like that aspect. I understand your point about them not bringing it up again. I do understand that. I, for one, didn't feel like they needed to. I feel like there was enough stakes going on. Yeah, that were life-threatening and stuff for them to not bring that up. I guess obviously because they fall in love. I guess that's your point about that.
It's one of those that it's weird that it's cringy because they brought it up, rather than cringy because it's there. Because, like, even if you look back at Groundhog Day, like one of Bill Murray's lines, I believe, is that he's fall in love with every girl that's in the loop and he's like made out with every girl, and like so it's obviously something that happens in every loop, because if you're going to live the same day over and over and over and over and over and over and over for thousands of years, you're not going, like, your morals are going to get a little twisted, and you are going
100%
fuck about a bit. You're going to see what it's like with Michelle, with Sarah, and with Dave.
Because you can't have a long-lasting relationship with anyone because you're having
you get one day.
The same day. Yeah, you have the same day over and over again. I think that's what the interesting question of the movie is whether or not they stay together as well. Or whether or not it is, like you said, is it just a case of them to just being together for the sake of being together because they had no one else to be with.
Which, I mean, isn't such an issue because you see that in everyday life anyway. Every work romance can be seen as a romance for convenience because you're with a select group of people every day for months, years on end. So of course feelings are going to start to grow.
Yeah.
So like,
and I think it works as well because obviously like they're both like shitty people, really, aren't they? So it kind of works that they, you buy that these two people fall in love together.
And hopefully become better people for it.
Exactly.
Right, let's move on to the next review because we kind of got lost in the cringeable aspect of that previous review. Okay.
Although it must be weird, just quickly, although it must just make me think, although it must be weird to have experienced all those things like murdering people, dying, and then to go back to the normality, like the normal world, must be a weird.
Oh yeah,
I'd like to see a sequel.
J.K. Simmons' character, like after murdering Niles for so many times,
yeah,
and then getting a taste of his own medicine. Like, what life is he returning to after he follows them out of the loop?
Yeah.
It's one of those, like, how many times can you die before death becomes meaningless for you?
Yeah, literally, yeah.
Okay, this one is from Carla Hay. It is an extract. Enjoy it. Unfortunately for Palm Springs, the chemistry between Samberg and Milioti isn't very believable when Niles and Sarah start to become a romantic couple. Milioti seems to be doing her best to bring some laughs to the story, but Sarah is such a deeply unhappy, self-loathing person that it's hard to believe that Sarah can fall in love when she doesn't even love herself. So that is the first paragraph of 3. Do you have any notes so far?
That's interesting. I do think that they sort of gain. I think they sort of gain that love for themselves or confidence in themselves throughout the movie. I mean, she works out every possible scenario, where addressing the situation with her sister, which I think is the real reason why she feels like a bad person. She hates herself for doing these shitty acts. And I think that, she goes for every possible scenario. She sees every possible reaction from her sister. And I think through that, she grows and learns to love us. That's how I felt watching it.
Yeah.
I understand that, though. I can understand that maybe they didn't buy the chemistry because of that. But I feel like I did because, like I said, they're two people that don't believe in love. Two very sort of... not say... Immature isn't the right word, but like... Do you know what I mean? They're very individual people who are very selfish, who kind of only care about themselves and are very driven by having a good time as opposed to hurting others, like not hurting others sort of thing. So I can buy that these two would connect and gel together. And you can tell that by how like goofy they're being when they're like having fun together and like pretend to be pirates and dancing in the middle of a pub and... it does make sense. It feels like these two characters would do that. They feel like... So I disagree in that part. I feel like they're very similar in a lot of ways, and I could buy that. I bought their chemistry, personally.
You've just brought up... I've got to go back to the cringy line, because you just brought up that whole, like, bar dance thing, when they just walk in and start dancing and then just leave.
Yeah.
That's it. I was like, why? Why is this scene here? This scene doesn't need to be here. Get out of here with that scene.
See, I like that because I feel like it's like, you don't give a shit, do you? Like, you just walk into some random intimidating bar and then just, like, do, like, this really, like, extrovert, sort of dance, like, extravagant dance together, all dressed in the same outfits. Like, I think that'd be hilarious. Like, imagine if you see two people just walk into a pub and just dressed in the same outfits, just started dancing like that. Like, I think that was hilarious. And I liked that as an idea of, like, two things these couples would do to sort of push their excitement in this time loop world. That might be cringy to some people, but I thought that was quite funny. And yeah, I just thought I understood the thought process of like, they're just imagining what other people are thinking whilst they're watching them just like walking in the same outfit dance. Like, you'd be like, what the fuck? But yeah.
Yeah, that's true. If you've got all the time in the world, you can do those random risky things.
Doesn't matter, does it?
Yeah. Parts of Palm Springs seem more like an adult language version of a Saturday Night Live sketch that's worn out its welcome. Samberg, who's a Saturday Night Live alum, has the same type of one-note man-child persona that he had on the show. It's the same persona that Pete Davidson has also taken as part of his comedic image. That's... What do you say? I think that's fair.
That's kind of fair.
Like, a bit harsh, but fair. I feel like every role that I remember seeing Andy Samberg in is that man-child comedy role.
Yeah, he does what he does. I mean, it's like...
He's found his
It's like... Yeah, it's like an Adam Sandler movie. It's like, you know what Adam Sandler's going to do. He's going to play that sort of...
Ooh,
I mean, they're kind of descents...
Then he pulls out Uncut Gems.
But he's still got that level of... what's great about Adam Sandler, and I think people like Andy Serberg and Pete Davidson are kind of descendants from him in the sense that he played that angry man-child first. You know, like the guy who's a bit immature, even though he's a fully grown adult. Because even in Uncut Gems, it's a more serious role, but he's still a big man-child, isn't he? He's still like, he's still making the same mistake. He's still getting mad over silly things, and like, he plays that same sort of level of frustration. So I mean, and I guess he does get critiqued as well. But I mean, I understand that as a critique of Andy Samberg. But I mean, for me in this one, I mean, I can sometimes get a bit sick of that. Like I've seen him a few times in other things, and I've been like, oh, he's just doing the same thing he always does, sort of thing. But in this, I did feel there was a little bit more heart to it, and a little bit less silly. He felt a little bit more grounded as a person, as opposed to before. He's been very over the top. So yeah, I can understand that as a point, but I personally didn't. I actually thought it was an improvement in other stuff that he's done.
Yeah, it's the double-edged sword of typecasting, where he's really good at that role. So of course people are still gonna grab him and pull him into their films because they want him to play that character. But then it's the flip side of, if he keeps playing that character, he'll perfect that character, but he won't be able to show off his range. Which I feel there are some moments in this where he gets to, but for the majority of it, it is the classic Andy Samberg recipe. So it's one of those.
Definitely.
What is it? It's one of one, half a dozen of the other. It's like it makes sense.
I think as well, it's like it's a lot easier to critique someone like Andy Samberg when they're doing like a comedy performance. I don't think people would pick up on these things when it's someone doing just who's playing a similar character in like other stuff, like I don't know, maybe like Morgan Freeman or Clint Eastwood or something. I mean, obviously they do differ in their roles, but I'm talking like sometimes they do just play themselves, kind of thing. And I think that, you know, they're good at what they do. They're good at doing that. Or like, I don't know. I mean, they're probably one of the best examples, but you get what I'm trying to say. Whereas I think when it's a comedy, because they have like ticks and jokes that you've seen before, people get fed up quicker because it's like you're kind of doing the same sort of thing you did before, but it's hard, like you said, because it's like that's what got him to the table in the first place. But,
yeah, exactly. Anyway, let's finish off this extract.
Cool.
A comedy with this time loop concept should be fun to watch. But Palm Springs is a chore to watch because the two main characters don't have charismatic personalities. Huge stretches of Palm Springs drags on for too long, and even the movie's visual effects look cheap and clunky. End of extract.
I didn't think it felt slow at all. I don't know about you. I thought it paced pretty well. I thought it moved on. I thought it was going pretty quick. I thought there's always things happening. I liked that there was a point where, you know, when he's getting shot by the bow and arrows, where it was like, what the fuck is going on? What the fuck is going on? And then like she goes to the party and the sister gets her teeth knocked out. Like there was so much happening that I was like, oh my god, this is great. I never felt quite. I was always curious to see where it was going. I never felt bored by it or felt it was too long. I mean, what is it, like 2 hours, is it? Or hour 50?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, well, hour and a half, 90 minutes. So it's like, 90 minutes. And I felt like, it felt as tight as that. I don't know. I don't know, what do you think about that extract there?
I don't think that the main characters don't have charismatic personalities. I feel like though, like the three actors of Andy Samberg, Christine Miliato, and J.K. Simmons, I think if it didn't have those three people in it, the film itself would lose something. Thus, showing that having those, but then that might just be the actors themselves. The characters, like Adam Sandberg's character Niles, is very he's a nihilist. So if you don't find anything to latch onto with that character, you're not going to like that character, and the charisma is going to wash over you and isn't going to stay. So I can understand, like, I think that's another one of those, like, the person watching the film, if they're not connecting to the characters because of these negative characteristics, then they wouldn't see the charisma in these characters, because they're like, well, no, I don't care what you say, you're still a dickhead. Why am I watching this film?
Yeah, I see you mean. I personally did find them both charismatic. Particularly Andy Samberg, I really liked the idea that he knew where everyone was going to be falling and standing when they were drunk during the party, so that he staged him like dancing around and jumping over their heads just to like get with Christy, like stuff like that. I thought that was funny and charming, and I thought the goofy stuff that they were doing, and the fact that he was laughing everything off every time he was being killed or doing something silly, I found quite charismatic. I was laughing quite a lot at most of the things they were doing. So yeah, I mean, each to their own. It's hard to argue with people that defend something when that's just the way people feel. I mean, that's.
Yeah. I do feel.
Yeah.
They didn't do enough with the time loop stuff, with that, like the scene that you just described there. Like, they didn't do enough of those, because those are like the bread and butter of Groundhog Day time loop movies, and I feel like that might be the only like proper establishing one, and that's before we're properly introduced to the time loop of the movie. But that's a personal gripe. I like those. Yeah,
but I quite like that, because I thought it made it different. It made it separate to the other stuff. It kind of explored what it's like to be in this eternal loop, instead of sort of. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you've been in there for like how God knows how long. Like, what does that feel like? And I quite like that aspect of it. I think that's what made it different to everything else that's come before. Otherwise, I feel like if it would retread old ground, it would have.
Yeah, I think it's because this film focuses on Sarah's, like, it's weird because they kind of, who's the main character in this film? Like, you've got Niles and you've got Sarah, and they're both leads, but who is the main character?
I would say it's probably, I mean, they're both. I mean, you could have dual protagonists. You can have dual protagonists.
Because I was going to say that it's interesting because this is focused on Sarah and it's her experiences within the time loop, and that's why, like, the opening that opening dance floor number is different and interesting, because it's somebody seeing a time loop man before entering the time loop herself. But then, of course, later on in the film, the narrative switches so that Niles becomes the main focus and him searching for Sarah. So it's weird, because by then I feel like you've fallen into that, I guess, trap of having the time loop man be the protagonist of the time loop film, whilst prior you had somebody outside coming in, which I guess is more regular. It's hard. It's difficult to. It's weird. Like, even as I try and analyze it, it's like, interesting. How do you fix an issue where there's so many pieces on the board?
I thought that was clever in that sense, the way it structured itself like that. I quite liked how it flip-flopped, and you kind of felt like you had equal time with both characters.
I gotta ask though, how quickly did you realise that she'd fucked the groom-to-be? Because I can tell you the exact moment I was like, yeah, I know what's coming. I know what's happened.
Trying to think. I don't know. What was...
For me,
when did you figure?
When she woke up, heard the shower going, and then he immediately ran to Andy Samberg. And I was like, cool, someone's in the shower. Who's going to be in the shower? It's going to be the groom, because that makes the most narrative sense.
See, no, you got there
like,
quicker than I did. I didn't get it until I don't think I noticed it until he got out of the bed. I don't think.
That's fair.
No, I don't think I noticed it until that close up of. Do you know when she has that really good day with him, and the next day she like wakes up, and then I think
that might be the same scene when she wakes up, lies there for a minute, and then the shower, and it's just like, something bad has occurred.
Yes. No. Yes. No, that was the moment. I remember that. That was good. Ready for the next review? Any extract?
Yes, I'm trying to.
Well, while you're doing that, I can spit some facts. If not, while you're looking.
Go on, spit some facts.
So the guy who, they actually got the guy who works on all the Marvel movies to do the science of it. So this guy's called Clifford V. Johnson, and he does all like the sort of physics and science stuff behind like the Marvel movies. I mean, obviously it's all metaphysics. It's all made up, but it's based in some sort of reality. So basically, he the time loop in this movie that's used, he based the physics of how the time loop. If this actually time loop did exist, the way it exists in the movie, he based all the physics and stuff off of actually how that would work. So it always based in sort of real physics, which I thought was interesting. Also, another little fun fact, actually, the beer cans, right, in this movie, the name of them, if you Google them, it explains the name of it. It's like aperture or something like that.
Aperture.
Something like that. It explains, if you Google it, it explains the metaphysics of how it kind of works, the movie. There's also drawings on it of how the cave was created, how the vortex thing was created. And it was like an earthquake that happened that caused the portal thing to open. But yeah, that's all on the beer cans. People spotted that apparently. So
if it is aperture, that just reminds me of Aperture Science Portal games.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. I don't think it was that. It was something like. I don't know, something. Should have wrote it down.
Too late now.
Too late.
Okay,
too late.
Let's do this quick review because I've been looking at the time. That's why I had to quickly decide different reviews for us to finish on. So this is from Dalton 2. It's a half star.
Cool.
This movie.
Where's Dalton 1? Is that Timothy Dalton? I hope.
Yeah, maybe. This movie pulls so many goddamn punches, neither leaning too hard into sci-fi, romance, or comedy. They wrote 5 minutes of content for each and stretched it over 90 minutes. I'm okay with doing things formulaic, but this feels half-baked on so many levels. No moment feels earned. It's like they didn't even try to intertwine the genres and were like, oh, it's been 5 minutes, let's throw a joke in here. Or here is obligatory expositional sci-fi dump for this wacky concept. Also, worst of all, this is one of those pieces of media that doesn't realize how fucked up it is and tries to move along hoping you don't notice. Basically, they wrote their main character as a rapist. Fuck this movie. This was the review I was on about. Whoops-a-daisy. Glad we got to it earlier and we don't need to address that point again.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway.
It's a weird one because I think, it's a comedy, so the absurdity of it. I mean, it's like if you break down what's happening in like the Three Stooges or something, it's like incredibly violent. It's like this, for example. It's like, yeah, what they're doing is fucked up and shit, but like, and he's saying it's obviously peppered with that comedy overlook of it, but that's kind of where the absurdity, the humour comes from. It's absurd humour, isn't it? It's coming from the ridiculousness and the what ifs of if that were to happen.
Exactly.
Which I quite like, and I think that's particularly when it comes to like them dying and stuff and the ways they die, and it's played all for jokes and the fucked up shit they do. But it's because nothing matters in that world because there's no they're just repeating the same day all over again. They're playing with the fun of that. So I think that's kind of a harsh thing to say. I think if you wanted to look at a lot of comedies, you could do that. Do you know what I mean?
But it's one of those. A lot of comedy, like, to be negative on comedies, I guess, but a lot of comedies can be seen as they've made a plot and then they've thrown jokes into it to make it funnier.
Of course, yeah.
So, like, I can understand, like, and the fact that this is a sci-fi comedy romance. Why do I keep saying romance? Romance. And I feel, even though they are quite negative with the intertwining and blending of those three elements, I don't know how you'd blend it, quote unquote, better, because I feel like it hits all the marks and it intertwines them well enough, if that makes sense.
Yes, like, I agree. I think it does.
Nobody's coming away from this film saying it wasn't those three things.
Exactly.
Like, nobody's hearing a review and going, "Oh, you thought that was a sci-fi? Oh, I just thought that was a rom-com. What? Mind blown." Like, nobody's coming out of it like thinking that.
No, I agree. I like that, and I like that it didn't go too sciencey. I like that she just sort of learnt physics to do it, because it's like, she's in this loop for ages. Of course you could learn something. Do you know what I mean? You could learn... You got the infinite amount of time to learn physics to get out. I mean, it makes sense. I like that. I felt that did feel earned. I think I didn't agree with that part of the review. He said nothing felt earned in it. I think it did feel earned. I even like the scene with J.K. Simmons when he says to him, like, I was so mad at you at first, but now I'm like, when I experienced what it felt like to be in that hospital and stuff, in that pain, I kind of felt a bit bad, sort of thing. I liked all that, and Harry become at peace with the fact that, he doesn't have his family, see his family grow and stuff, but he has them all there. They're all safe, and he's not alone. Like, whereas, he's alone with, as alone as he can be. Yeah. I mean, obviously, at the end, it's implied, he gets out as well. But yeah, no, I just that was very harsh, I thought. But yeah, go on, what was you going to say?
I was going to say, you remember in Mean Girls when I spoke about this film briefly and I was like, oh, this is the only film with a mid-credit scene that answered a problem that I had with the film? That was it.
Oh, right, of course.
The credits started and I was like, well, that was all right, but they just left that guy in the loop. Fucking dickheads. And then the mid-rolls happen. It was like, okay. They're not pieces of shit.
Well, that's what I found weird. I think that was. I think that's the only kind of little problem. One of the problems I have with it is that I feel that I don't see the reason why they couldn't have just gone, come along, with us or find another way. I thought it was a bit confusing to have that mid-credit come up. Like, for example, my girlfriend I was watching it with, she was kind of confused by it. She was like, "Oh, so what does that mean then? Did they make it? Did they not make it?" Like, she was kind of confused by it. And I think it did kind of. I think it does kind of throw people off. I feel like there could have been another way they could have shown that he also got through, or they left some sort of note or something. Some sort of evidence or some other way to prove that it worked, or even just not after the credits.
Don't agree.
Yeah,
I think it was. No, I understand that. But I personally feel like that wrapped it up quite nicely. Yeah. What I like thinking about it though, which is weird, is that Sarah explains that that her strategy worked because the sheep that she experimented on disappeared from the time loop.
Yeah.
But then Niles is in the time loop still, but is now a character playing his role rather than an outside time loop man. So I can understand the confusion.
Yes.
But then you couldn't explain that.
I think that's what was confusing, because it's like, well, if they make it to the next day, who is that? Like, why does he not? Do you know what I mean? I think that's that. Yeah. Literally, that is the kind of. But it made sense to me. But like, I can understand. I think it was a bit off-putting. It took me a while though. I was kind of like, what? And then I was like, oh, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, no. I thought it was. I actually like the ending of like they're in the pool and.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, today is when they come back.
Yeah. But I don't know why I've got this. It's like a pump for like I have like this neck brace thing. Do you know I've like done my neck in?
You didn't you didn't need to tell us. It's fine.
No, I know, but I just thought it was funny because I was just carrying. I thought people were gonna think, "What the fuck is this? It's that little pump thing." So
He's got a little rubber grenade.
Yeah, it's like this little. So it pumps the neck up, and then I can like sit up straight, which I'm not doing at all now. This is why I have problems, people. But anyway, sorry,
Okay,
distracted.
let's wrap it up.
Yeah.
Let's give our reviews, and then call it a day.
Okay, cool. Right, well, Palm Springs, I thought it was great. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really fun little comedy. Thought I really liked what it did with the sort of played out genre of the Groundhog Day sort of movie, the day repeating the time loop. But I really liked it, particularly after watching Boss Level, which was an example of it not done right necessarily. I thought it was really fun. I thought Alan Tudyk was great. I think it's probably one of the best movies I've seen him in. I thought it was really good. I thought the concept was great. I thought the script was really tight. Performances were great all round. I had a really fun time. I laughed my ass off the whole time. I really enjoyed it. I can't fault it. It is what it is. It's a movie that does what its job. It didn't particularly. I mean, it's very fresh in my mind because I watched it recently. It hasn't particularly necessarily stayed with me, but I think it's a fun movie. It's a fun comedy, romantic comedy, time loop movie, and it's just a lot of fun. I highly recommend it to anyone. I'm probably going to recommend it to a few people. It's an easy watch for people to watch. It's fun, and I've said fun so many times now.
You have.
But also just a clever play on that time loop genre. I like the idea of it being stuck in there for ages. Like, what do you do? Yeah, what happens when you turn 1 million, sort of thing, your life, and like I liked all the possible scenarios that the writers had thought of like things you would do, because it totally kind of makes sense, like the options that they take. I really enjoyed it, and I recommend it to people. How about you, Luke?
Good stuff. Yeah, I agree. I also agree with your earlier comment that it's a weirdly starting to get played out a bit, like the Groundhog Day time loop thing. And I had to think, and so you've got Palm Springs that came, which was Sundance 2020 release. You've got Map of Tiny Perfect Things, which is on Netflix Prime, which is on Amazon Prime as well, which came out early this year, 2021. You've got The Distant Strangers. You have
Boss Level also come out in 2020.
Boss Level. I'm pretty sure there was another one that we spoke about, which I can't remember now.
Happy Death Day 1 and 2.
Happy Death Day 1 and 2. And this is slightly older, but Groundhog Day for a Black Man, which was the stolen original concept for Two Distant Strangers. Unconfirmed, but mate, have you seen this? Garbage. I hate it. What's it called? Okay, so on YouTube in 2016 there is a YouTube video called Groundhog Day for a Black Man.
I see.
And it is a black gentleman waking up on the same day, and every day he gets killed by police.
I see.
Two Distant Strangers, which is the Netflix original 2021 award-winning film short, is about a black guy who wakes up every day and gets killed by police officers.
I see.
But what's really bad is that when George Floyd died, and it was the Black Lives Matter what's the word? When Black Lives Matter was in the press and it was in the public eye, now this asked the creator of Groundhog Day for a Black Man, asked the creator if they could share it on their stuff to like up the voice and up the show support for black creators and black actors and black everybody, helping with the cause. And then in Two Distant Strangers, now this is credited as one of the people that helped create the film. It is. I've not done the argument justice,
confusing.
But it is.
Yeah,
it's one of those that nobody's confirmed that this is has taken this idea and stolen it and remade it, but it is the clues are there to draw your own conclusion, which I have agreed with the vast majority of people in going, these coincidences are too strange. But anyway, yeah, my main point there was that there's 5-6 different time loop films that have come out in a short period of time.
Yeah.
Give it a break, guys. Don't burst the bubble. Don't burst the time loop bubble. Give us a break. Come back in a couple of years. It is a fun focusing back. Palm Springs is a good time. As I said, I had watched it a couple of weeks back now. The memories have deteriorated a bit. It's like I don't remember a lot of the jokes. I don't remember bits and pieces. So take that as you will. It's probably not gonna. It's not gonna knock Groundhog Day off the top spot for best Groundhog Day film, because even the award is called Best Groundhog Day Film.
Yep.
Socials. We've got, Charlie, what have we got for the socials?
You can find us on Twitter at FabFilmWasAwful. You can find us on Instagram, Your Favourite Film Was Awful. Facebook, Your Favourite Film Was Awful. And YouTube, Your Favourite Film Was Awful. As well as Patreon.
Patreon.com/Your Favourite Film Was Awful. We've got tiers. You can give us money. You can help support this show. And then we can continue doing it instead of focusing on, normal work. Ew. But yeah, it's one of those. It's the classic, hey, we're creators, give us a bit more and we can create a bit more. Wouldn't that be great? Anyway, because this is a time loop film, we now have to start again. Are you ready, Charlie?
Yeah.
Okay. Hello, and welcome to Your Favourite Film Is Awful.
What's your favorite film?
God, that's awful.
Favorite?
Awful.
Awful.
Your favorite
Film.
awful.